What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today, and I'm super excited to get a chance to have the opportunity with here Jesús Daniel. And what did you do this past weekend?
Oh, I just won. I won one of the 3 tournaments that are here in Mexico, just for the V format, and I'm very excited about it.
That's awesome. Thank you, amigo. And what's really cool too, if anybody that's watching it is a seasoned veteran, you may remember Jesús from playing Blasters back in 2017. The infamous stand trigger drive check.
Another heal. If you can get that stand, this might be very big. He gets the stand trigger. Huge indeed. I don't think he has enough. He has to take that.
Yeah, it's that damage.
Your world champion, Herrera, Jesús.
Do you still get that a lot?
I do, and it's awesome. I guess I think that any person would like to have like one key moment in their, let's call it the sportsmanship career, you know?
Yeah.
Which is like more or less what we do. It's well, not a sport, but it's how do you call it? It's a hobby.
Card game.
You have you compete. So any person would like this key element for everyone, especially if you're on streaming. You know, I rather being the guy who is remembered for checking a send trigger than being the guy, I don't know, who spilled my coffee on the playmat or something like that. So
fair enough. Something epic rather than something embarrassing.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And so we're gonna dive into basically your deck list and get to know you a little bit better too as well. So what I typically do is I generally start off with asking, like, what are your, do you have a local community, or is there any like Latino community that you guys prep and stuff? Any shout outs like in that regards?
Yeah, I recently moved. So in this part where I live now, which is Tijuana in Mexico, in Baja California, there's not a local community per se, or if there is, I haven't reached to them yet. Mm-hmm. So I do not belong to one right now, but shout outs to the stores where I play in Mexico City and all their communities, which are like the Chop Chop Shop, like Dark Store, it's another one of them. I don't know, it's another one of them, and I think that's all stores in Mexico City. There is one that I am forgetting. I don't know. I don't remember the names.
It'll come back to you.
I am horrible with names. And also, what has helped me to play and to test is that some other Latin American communities have reached out to me, and they are amazing. I belong to chats from Argentina, from Chile, from Costa Rica. Oh, wow. I have a friend who is from Panama. He has been to Worlds too, a couple of times. So I would like to, I would like to mention them, and it would be good because I think there is a lot of people who would like to play Card Fight Vanguard to a highly competitive level.
Yes.
And they just would like the chance to have more tournaments. Like the presence from Reassured over there would be nice, shout outs to all of them, because they do, or we make the effort to be on the level. And I know that the environment that is created when you don't have a lot of tournaments around, it's actually pretty aggressive because it's your one shot, right? So
yes.
So you have to make it count.
I know you and I were talking earlier, you said there's a good amount of participation still, in BCS Mexico. Yeah,
we have very nice presence. We are always above 100s, for any event. Mm-hmm. So right now that we are dividing our community into different formats, yes. It would be the 200, Yes. And we usually, during the team league seasons, we usually get even to the 100 teams, which would be I think it's a big community.
100 teams. That's really good.
Yes, nice actually.
Yeah, especially for playing for a specific format too at that point. Wow. Okay. Nice. Thanks for sharing with that too, because sometimes people aren't aware too of different communities, and so it's always good to shout them out. So I appreciate you for even doing that for other Latino countries as well. So let's dive into the next question. And so typically I also like to ask, what did you prepare, or what was your mindset going into the tournament? Did you want to go elaborate a little more?
I think for this season was very difficult. Not only talking about my format, V, but also for the other formats. It was, I think the process was stressing, because I think that right now, as we're speaking in November 2023, the best format, or the format that I like the most, is V. Okay. Because it is established. Even when you have the best decks and everything, it's still open. There is room for other decks to actually compete and to get to know the matches, you know, and to get to know and to get to play around them. But standard and premium, oh my god, that's like I don't know how to put it, you know. Like in premium, there's so much power around.
Yes,
there is the milling decks, like that really puts me off, you know. Like I was trying to decide on which format I was going to play, if I was going to play premium or I was going to play standard the first day, and that was like on my mind constantly, like, what should I play? What if I didn't want to play against the Millista deck or the mill deck. I don't know. I don't enjoy playing against those decks, and like
I don't think
losing like that.
At the receiving end.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah, that was the thing, and my mindset was mainly focused on these two tournaments because since I wouldn't say that it is a sold format. But since we right now are not getting that much support, or we're not getting support as often,
right?
But when we do get impactful cards like the promos, which was they were so amazing. Like Franche, I think the name is Franche,
for Grand Blue. Yep.
Yeah, that's like it was super impactful for this tournament, and that helped me to focus on the other formats. And it helped me to create I think that a deck of my own, because one thing that I can notice that is lacking in standard would be the players builder, like the deck builders like expression to express themselves through the deck creation. I think it's a little bit tougher in standard because you need to you need to stick to some format, like which is even harder. You know how it is already hard to try to express yourself with when half your deck needs to be there, like PGs, triggers, like your grade 3s and everything. At least with in premium, you can add a little bit of spice with some card here and there. In V, you can do it with some of the archetypes, since like inside the same clan or some cards, some spicy things, which actually like you feel the presence of them inside of the deck. And in standard, I think it's not like that. So, like, long story short, I finally found a deck that I felt happy with, which was a ground grace deck. I felt really, really happy with it.
That's cool.
And that was my mindset for it. As for V, there is a funny story too, where before I moved from Mexico City, which is the capital of the country, like many of the shop challenges were happening over there. And you know how they give you your buy card, right?
Yes.
There, I was going to be able only to go to one of the tourneys before I moved. So it was either winning that one or not having a buy card at all.
Right.
And I won that one too with Thavas.
That's awesome.
I shot my shot and I did with Thavas, and that was when the love started for the deck, because it was my first time playing with the deck like competitively, and we did a good match.
No, that's really cool. So you like had it for a shop challenge, and since you won the shop challenge with it, then it got closer to your heart.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got more excited for it to even compete with it at the BCS level. Gotcha. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing your mindset and going into it. Like, I think most players also struggle with that. Like, which format do I play this weekend? Or like the type of deck that I play in, especially each format's kind of unique in its own state right now. And you pretty much hit it on the nail, where premium's all over the place. You got the Millista deck. Nobody wants to be in the receiving end. You got V premium, where it seems not necessarily solved because there's still V promos floating around. And then standard is in its own way that it's kind of hard to sometimes have that spice that's more in, like you said, presence at that point too. So I understand. Let me go to your deck next.
Something amazing, like, because when I arrived to Mexico City, I was speaking with a friend of how, like, what if we calculated the radio? You know how over trigger always like lights up some debate with any person you're talking with, right?
Oh yeah.
So we said, okay, let's keep in your mind how often your opponent checks his over trigger. My opponent checking the over trigger ratio was 100%. My opponent over triggers during all their matches of the standard tournament, 100%. I did check mine, but I was like as a damage trigger. This is super funny because I was thinking, I'm breaking my head. Oh, which over trigger should I choose? Should I choose one of the Cree Elemental ones? Should I choose the one from Cutter Century? I don't know.
Right.
I was like breaking my head. I never checked it. Like I never drive checked it, like to make use of the extra effect. It never happened. So to this day, I don't know which over trigger would have been better because I never checked it for the drive check.
You just know it's an OT and that's it.
Yes, exactly. They're like, okay, super heal trigger, draw.
Super heal trigger, yeah, basically. Awesome. Did you want to point out some key highlights for your deck list, any cards or maybe strategies that you have in mind with the stuff?
Oh, yes. Whenever I play actually any kind of tournament, especially if it's going to be long, what I like is to be constant and stable because I want the deck to run as much as possible, like as stable as possible. I want to see kind of the same hands as when I am testing. I want to see like my combo, my pieces, how Thavas is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it per se a combo deck, but you do need pieces in order for your deck to, for the engine to start.
Yes.
So that's what I did here. Just good old reliable numbers, like to maxing out everything you needed. Such as, well, of course, Thavas with the Pursuit Assault, which is the most important card of the deck. Good stuff like the Coral Assault, of course, the promo, which is I don't know why people sometimes run it at 3 or less. So one thing that I like doing is studying other lists and see, okay, what are other players doing that I might be doing wrong. Now, when I see these kind of decisions, less of a card which is busted, is why?
My
what
guess
am I doing
is they're
wrong?
trying to fit other things, but yeah.
So that's what you see whenever you see these deck lists. Well, first of all, with the name, you see a deep of overconfidence.
Absolute victory, I love it.
But yeah, that's mainly that. I only wanted the deck to run as smooth and as constant as possible through all the rounds. Because, as I said, I don't feel that safe as at picking spicy techs when I am in a big tournament.
Yeah, unless you're having a way to search them efficiently, and Aquaforce is not really known for that.
Yes, exactly.
You're relying on drawing into it or drive checking into it and things like that too. So I totally understand. Yeah, immediately when I saw your list, when I was doing the metagame coverage videos, I immediately saw you wanted to go more consistent, which is good. You want your deck to perform every single round the way that you expect to. So I do have a specific question though. I noticed that you only played the 3 Lambros. You didn't play the additional Genovias. Was there any reasoning for that by chance?
I don't like Genovias because, first of all, I don't know if I know when to use it. It must be. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? The game state is clear. You just drop the thing and stand everything. But
fair enough.
Since I think when I was testing the deck and when I was teaching a friend how to play it, because I also help a friend actually that's how the love of for the deck began. A friend of mine was building it.
Yes.
And he was asking me for help, to coach him with the deck because he's super busy. He cannot, actually dive into advanced play combos and everything. And I was like, oh yeah, let me help you. And as I was looking at it, I liked it a lot, and I had to get one of my own. And I noticed that the first couple of turns in Thavas are super key. You need to shape your hand for your first grade 3 turn. Yep. Turn 1 and turn 2 are for that. If you're not shaping your grade 3 turn with the first 2 turns that you have, with the resources that you have, with your mulligan, then you are not gonna have a good time if something goes wrong. Because I have seen some people be I just drum everything on the field and life will provide. But Genovius is not one of those cards where you actually can use it for the core strategy. So I really didn't want to see it. I am a believer of the Morphy Law. I think it's the name, right, in English? Morphy's Law. When something might go wrong, it will be wrong.
Oh, okay.
So because that happens, I always like draw my one break, you know, like how in Yu-Gi-Oh or in other games, it's like, oh, I'm gonna play this card because this is spicy, and come on, what are the chances of drawing it? And I draw it and draw it and draw it and draw it.
So for you, in your experience, that one card, even though it's only one in the deck, you pretty much see it often, and too early, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I think that it creates in my head scenarios where, okay, I'm gonna open. It's gonna be my first combo, like bam, like Reassured, or this thing where, well, when you are trying to G assist, and in my brain it would also pop out like a time when okay, I need Thavas, G assist, green obvious, or top deck green obvious, and like GG, right? Because there's no chance for you to advance your strategy. So that would be that. I think that green obvious, it's a win more card. Yeah. Like, I think that it only explodes to its 100% when you have an already established field.
Yes.
It does make and give a bigger push during that turn. But at the same time, there are scenarios where, like, imagine the opponent getting like a damage trigger, like a heal trigger, since green obvious is not boosting your units and they're just getting their own boost. I think it would be an easier turn for them to guard, especially since you need to attack with all the little attacks first, you know?
Yes.
And it's also more telegraphed, the pattern that you're following. And that's another thing that I like about Aquaforce right now, that you know how you need to learn other decks' pattern whenever they are attacking. I think that like Aquaforce still has this little room for, okay, sometimes you can attack with your Vanguard first, so you can swing for like a rear guard or numbers, and also the numbers can go up and down between like independent boost, like from Coral Assault, or the extra boost from Reaper's Strike Dragon. Yes. To like some simple things like Vergris, where he might or might not be that number, you know? Like, it was super fun whenever I attack with a unit, and then my opponent would be, okay, how much are going to be the other columns? And then in my brain, and I told my opponent, okay, it depends. Like, if I attack with this one right now, it might be 17. But if I do it differently, it might be 22, or which also makes these scenarios like really hard for the opponent to be like, okay, what's the right decision for me to guard? Should I guard this now? Should I wait until it's bigger? Should I wait until it's stronger? And I like that like those mind games where like that you put the opponent in, like this decision making. I think it's actually where you like differentiate prepared players from the ones who are just like flowing, you know? And that's what I like, and that's why I make this decision of building the deck like I did.
Yeah, and to break it down a little more simple too for the viewers is that, you know, cards like Coral Assault and Barragios like depend on the number of rested rear guards currently, and that's where like the numbers can fluctuate. So I like how you mentioned that you can play some mind games with people. I never really thought about it that way. I always was thinking about like my attack patterns, like this will be the first battle, this will be the second battle, and so on. But if your opponent just stopped you and asked you, like, how big are the numbers going to be? And you're like, actually, it does depend, actually. So I never realized that was an opportunity to play some mind games. Thanks for pointing that out. That's pretty smart, actually. Is there anything you want to point out with the deck? Like, would you change any ratios or anything like that? Or you felt like it was in a good spot? I
think it's super good. It feels so nice. I have seen people running like Wheel Assault is the name, right, of the other great one. Yes. Which like Jurad, and it's another right target. I think it's good. I would like to cut down. This is a weird card. Like like you hate it, but you need it up there. You know, like it's literally a love-hate relationship with this card. Exactly. Yes, and he loves giving me triggers. Like he loves it. Like his favorite sport. Like. Look at this big boy. It's the bring me a critical trigger of 3,000. That's the name of this guy. So, but you need it, right? So, I don't know. I sometimes feel like I might be able to cut this down to 1. But whenever I'm thinking about that, for example, during my top 8, he came very clutch because we have other guys here in the deck. Like, where are you? I think this card is the where are you 3000, because like you run out of Lambruses, and it's like, okay, I need my Nikki. Yes. And that happened during the top 8. I ran out of Lambrus. Yeah. and I needed like this guy just to finish it, because the opponent was I was playing against it was Grand Blue.
Okay.
And he had a very well-established hand. Well, you cannot establish your field, right? But he had a very well-established drop zone. He had a big hand, so I needed that push. And at the beginning of my turn, I didn't have the Nikki, and I had the Lambros in my hand, and I was thinking about, okay, should I ride with what I have, or should I try and go for it? Because that game, I didn't ride him for the first ride, and there was none of them in the damage zone, so I knew the 4 of them were in the deck, and I had a good chance of drawing it, right? It. And I had like all my all my Pursuitosol were like available, so I was going to be able to draw. And I said like, okay, let's go for it. Let's try and draw it. And I drew, and like I filtered the deck with the Grade 3 Searcher, and nothing was coming out. My last effort that like was an anime moment was with this guy. Okay, like and it was like that because all my field was rested, you know.
Yeah,
and it was like okay, and I had to go hard, like or go hard or go home, right?
Basically,
okay, so call Dennis skill. And the moment he gave me the Nikki, I mean, that was it. I got super lucky. Yes, I know. I got super lucky in that one. In my brain, he's like, yeah, I got lucky, but come on, I had 4 and I just kept looking at cards in my deck, right?
Yeah. Eventually you would see it, right?
Yes. I wish I would have wished that it didn't happen during the last card. So I could, you know, like sometimes you like to lie to yourself and saying, oh yes, it was all ability. Like I didn't, it was all calculated, right? And maybe you draw the card, you shuffle your hand a little bit, and then you like, so the opponent doesn't see that you just, like got lucky. And I couldn't do it for this one. It was like the last card. Oh my God, I think the end, like he came to the field and.
Yeah, fair enough.
What story?
It depends how salty they are too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like if it was me, like I understood your situation. Like you have 4 in the deck, you're about to draw it eventually. So I would be surprised if you didn't get one at this point.
I was about to be surprised.
Right. That's funny. I guess we can go into your matchups. How was your Swiss rounds first? Like the ones that you want to highlight?
I lost my first round into the tournament. I got the buy card, so I didn't play the first round. And then something happened because my opponent to the second round didn't arrive. And I was actually thinking, is the buy card for 2 rounds? Because I was sitting down and they have told me like it was only going to be for 1 round. Or like, okay. Right. And then my opponent didn't arrive, and then I thought, oh, maybe this thing happened when you surpass the player limit, and like it gives you 2 wins, right? And then I got to the judges table, and they were like, "Oh no, your opponent didn't show up." Okay, so I took it. So walking into my 3rd round, I got against the nuns. What's the name? Like Battle Sisters.
Yeah, Battle Sisters. Yep.
That guy, oh my God, like he played really well. And that's one thing that I like about V, that if you're playing really well, the triggers, yes, they do become impactful because they are impactful in the game. But since there are no 100,000 million shenanigans, right? Like guards, you can calculate your hand to perform inside again in a different way. And he was playing really well. And he was healing. I don't know if I'm just traumatized for the event, but I think he healed 4 times. Like, holy crap. Healed and healed and healed. And every time I was getting like close to, okay, I'm about to kill you, he healed. Of course, he can look for those heals, right? Because he checks the top, like part of his deck and everything. So I do understand. It's not sheer luck, but yeah, that one I lost completely, because even when I tried to push during my last turn, he double defensive trigger with a heal. So yeah, no, it was a mess. It was a mess. So I lost that one. Then as for round number 4, I went against Highlander. I won. Round number 5, I went against Grand Blue, which is another very strong deck. Oh yeah. But I tested that one out a lot. When I noticed which are the decks who are going to be problematic, like I tried to see what I need to do, if I need to push, if I need an early game, or I need to like preserve my hand, and I could win that one too. Then that's round number 5, right? So as for round number 6, I got against the animals, Great Nature, right?
Yeah, Great Nature. Yep.
Leopold, and I got lucky and I got first with that one. And I could steamroll him. I got a very, very smooth game against him for that one.
Yeah.
And you know how Leopold has a bunch of grade 3s, so
yes,
they need to just start eating damage, and that's what he did. I got it. And then for the last round, I saw a deck that I like a lot, but I haven't had the chance to build it. That's another thing that happens to me in V. I like a lot of decks. Since V feels a lot like old school Vanguard.
It can, yeah.
And I like that a lot, and it feels flavorful. Every clan and every archetype feels flavorful inside their own clan and their gimmicks. That's what I love about V series. I think that it's a tribute for the old, for whoever has been playing this long enough. He was playing No-Seal. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
usually people say No-Seal, but yeah, I think
the No-Seal.
Yeah.
And I love the deck, and he was playing it, and he was getting super hard. He was getting big numbers and all his lines multi-attacking. And it's very annoying for those Persky decks, because usually No-Seal can be stopped if you are playing a Force clan, right? Because you are sitting at 13.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good, but Thavas is not 13, so I was actually suffering it. I was like, oh my god, this is complicated. And in the last turn that he had used already 3 of his No-Seals, so he only had the 1. So he attacked. It was if you drive it, I'm gonna be in a bad position. So let's check what happens. He didn't check it, so it was over for that one. Then was the cut to top 8, and this is where it gets very interesting. In Mexico, lots of players top constantly. I think that there is. I wouldn't call it small circle, because there are some players who are improving throughout the seasons, and whenever they arrive to the tournament, they already have a very big level of competitive gaming. But there is also these players who always tap constantly. I'm gonna say I am one of them, but it was full of these people, of course. You can see new faces here and there, but there is this guy always taps. These guys tapped last year. These guys tapped during the Spring Fest, and they are very well identifiable. And one of my matches was against one of them. I am super bad with names. That's one, and the other one is I hardly hear their names, because I can only hear the nicknames that they put amongst themselves. Which makes it even more difficult for you to remember the name.
Yeah.
So what I play against, what's the name of this deck? Melodies.
Okay. Yeah. Melody. Yep.
Yeah, and it's a super strong deck, and I could win. I got the chance to win. It was we were going back and forth. Yeah. And I won. Then top 4 was against another super strong player. I was playing Grand Blue, and I feel. And he knew he was in a very good position at the beginning of the game. I was rushing, and you know how Grand Blue kicks you out of the game if you don't have enough PGs.
Yes.
Or enough 15s during the first turn of the ship.
Yeah.
So when he knew he was getting in a very good advantageous position during my first grade 3 turn. But I double crit him. I didn't win the game over there, but that pushed him to 5 damage.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And that's very nice for Thavas against any 12k Vanguard. It's so good, because it's 17, 22. The numbers just are super uncomfortable to guard.
Yes.
So I pushed him to 5 damage. When he pushed back, he could gather a bunch of hands with the ship, but he didn't heal. So he received my turn with 5 damage, and he received a whole turn. That's when I told you I was looking for the Nikki. I was like, okay, come on, don't do this to me. I don't want to lose. Okay. I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose like that. And he went out, and it was nice. One thing that is not good about Grand Blue is that it's more difficult to bank on your triggers, since you are milling so constantly. Yeah. And that happened. I think that he had already checked a couple of heal triggers. I don't know if he milled another one. So
that's potentially, yeah.
And also what gave me like the key factor was the double crit from the turn before that helped me to bring him to 5 damage. I think that I would have been able to, even if he was at 4, to kill him, but who knows, you know, like
it would be much harder.
Multi-attack deck, like 4 damage and then a damage trigger, so that was good. And then the finals was his name is Fabian. He's a very well accomplished player here in Mexico. He has always played Bermuda, and he plays it and he takes it to a very, very high standard. He always stops with it. And you know how Bermuda is a very good clan, right?
Yes.
So he knows the ins, he knows the outs. He was playing Highlander, and I think that at least Highlander is one of the decks that allow you to express yourself through the picks that you choose, right?
Yes, it's so much one-ups too, yeah.
So I could win that one, but there was this scenario where I had no PGs.
Yeah.
And he wrote Eve is the name, right, of this girl who checks the top, and so he wrote an Eve. He doubles the effect of the triple triggers. Yes.
Yeah.
So he's strong with it, and I didn't have PGs. So in my brain was like, okay, if he had a trigger on the top of his deck, because you know how you check the top and you leave it over there, right?
Yeah.
So I knew he had a trigger, and I read the thing and was like, okay, he's gonna double the effect of the criticals. So if he double crits me, like I'm out because I don't have PGs and like he has regards, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so no guard. In my brain it was like, okay, if it's gonna be your trip, it's gonna be your trip. Like,
yeah,
do it. He didn't check it, fortunately. I mean, he only checked one crit trigger. He pulled me to 5 damage. I could get to my turn, and I just finished the game. I liked that one a lot, that final turn, because all over my board were all the units of the deck. And that's something that I liked a lot, you know, like you had the Lambros, you had like all the units were scattered all over the board in the axial circles and everything. And I like that. I like that view so much, because in my heart, in my brain, it was like, these guys took me since even I had to leave the city during the ship challenge, testing the deck out, because that was also my process. I did feel like I was not playing the deck to its full potential, as where to position the cards, when to call them, when not to call them, like the numbers. And as I was trying to get everything out, it became like, I did it every day. Like I didn't have anyone to play with usually, because there is no community over here.
Right.
But like I did play with the deck every day, like shuffle a couple of hands and play test with myself, and
that helps a lot too.
And looking at the cards every day and like getting to like them, and like I like that so much, and that's how I got it.
That's a good process too, because you're embracing the deck more too right before an event. There you go. Yeah, and sometimes you have to like sit down by yourself and kind of like, okay, can I do this attack pattern, or can I do this type of play? Can I do this? And when you're by yourself, sometimes you just figure out those things a lot more clearly than in the moment when you're playing like at a tournament or like a locals type of deal as well. So that's awesome. So
what helped me a lot was the fact that I was trying to teach this deck to a friend. You know what they say, that like the best way to learn something, it's by teaching it.
Yeah.
So that helped me so much, because I was trying to point out to him, like, okay, keep your hand for this in areas and everything. And that helped me to detail the deck even more. And that was like super nice, like super nice to do. And I liked the deck. It's not my first time playing Aquaforce as a clan for big events. Like many years ago, like I've been playing Vanguard forever, like since it began.
Yeah.
I think it was for my second national tournament. I took Maelstrom and Glory Maelstrom.
That's awesome.
And I topped with those. And I liked the deck a lot back then. And I felt super happy. Also, it brings back memories, you know?
Yeah, good memories. It's the essence of Aquaforce, literally Maelstrom.
Yeah.
Awesome. So after the tournament, did you learn something, or did you reaffirm anything from the tournament?
What do you mean?
Like after you won, did you feel like you learned something that day, or maybe like reassured yourself in confidence in something? Anything like that at all?
I did. I think that as any player who wants to compete in a high stage, I have always thought that whatever you're doing when you're competing, if you have a hobby which is competitive, because any person can have you can like football, right? But if you are not competing yourself and you just like football to look at it, to watch it on television or reading about it, it's different than if you're playing in local leagues. You know how people from all ages play in little tournaments. So it can be chess, it can be anything. So I feel like if you're competing, the first it comes in mindsets, right? After I won Worlds, I unlocked one mindset, which is I think that anything that any person who is playing at anything and is competing is, I would like to be a world champion, you know?
Yeah.
So I could have that. And I know I'm a very good player at a worldwide environment. Yeah. I know I'm a very good player here in Latin America, but I wanted to I wanted to reaffirm that, you know, I want to go to Worlds again. I want to live the experience again with the mindset I have right now.
Yes.
And I'm doing it. And it helped me so much with that. It's not about proving anything to anyone, but more about proving yourself that what you feel and how you feel it. And it helped me do that. It felt, I could not believe it. In that moment, you know, I could not believe it. I was super excited. I was super happy with my team and everything. And it helped me realize that, not to realize that I am a good player, because I know I am a good player, but it helped me to settle any doubt that I would have, especially when you are playing and you haven't, I haven't stopped topping, when the tournaments return, you top, but then it's okay, why didn't I win? I don't know. I could get seconds at the Spring Fest and everything, and it was there's always this voice, asking, have I lost the touch? Am I rusty? And it's good, especially when you're seeing new faces and everything. I don't know if I kind of sure that I am one of the oldest person in Mexico's community playing Vanguard. I'm not from I have narrowed this down to generations. I am not from the 0 generation who is playing Vanguard, but there is just one or two people that I would identify from the 0 generation who are playing Vanguard, that you can see them, because there was a group and none of them play anymore. And then comes the first generation, which I think I enter into that generation, and the same. We were a group of people who were playing Vanguard at that moment, and many of them don't play anymore, just a couple of them. And it feels good to see older generation, let's call them like that, because it is amazing to see new faces, to see new potential in people, of course, and that helps me enjoy the game, because that's the only way that any game would grow, with new faces, with new people, with new mindsets. So that was good. It helped me think I still got it.
Basically. Yeah, and I think especially for players that have been around but also have had tops in the past, the doubt can come if you are not at a certain standard in your head. And for you, it was just when was the last time I went to Worlds? Do I still got it, or am I rusty, or what? And that nagging feeling. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. So thanks for even sharing that too. Some people don't even want to share that stuff.
I understand.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, it kind of leads to my typical question for the viewers. It's what advice would you give to players that are maybe striving for their first top, or maybe they haven't topped in a while and they want to re-top again? Any advice that you like to give?
What about advices that I give to any person I'm teaching to, or I'm a coach of other games and I have a couple of teams here and there. So I tell them, be pessimistic, get ready for the worst. Imagine the worst scenario happens.
Okay.
You build your deck, you do this, and really picture the worst scenario where you have no resources, not everything. How are you gonna go from it? If you can solve that, then you start asking, if you can start answering those questions, you will start getting into more solidified positions of your board. I think that I feel like Vanguard, it's like chess, especially V.
Yeah.
Because since you don't have the right deck, you need to position your cards in certain way for the turn 3 to come. and then from then on, it's a different engine. So I believe that in V, there are, as in chess, there are openings, there is the mid game, and there are finishers. And I like this saying in chess, which says, like, you should focus much more in openings rather than in the finishers, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that rule of chess would be good. Like, focus more on how you're gonna open your deck. Like the first 2 turns. Don't get to the turn number 3. Like, how are you gonna defend? How are you gonna get your resources? What are the cards you're gonna choose? Because it's super simple to picture Lambros over there with a bunch of units. But what about the first turns when you don't have Nikki? Should I drop the dragon to try and look for the Nikki or not? Should I do the GSs? Should I boost or not boost? Should I rush or should I like?
Yes.
I think those are the kind of decisions which separate a person who knows the deck from a person who doesn't. And my friend who played the Thavas deck, shout out to him too. He was inexperienced with the deck, and I know those were the kind of decisions that he lacked during the tournament. And that helped me also looking at it, because while I was trying and while I taught him like the best that I could, there are some things that you learn in the privacy of your own play testing, you know?
Yes.
And I think that was the thing that he was lacking, because yes, we did know what the deck did in optimal conditions.
Right.
But what are you going to do when your deck is not in the optimal conditions?
Right.
How are you going to fix that? Can you fix that? Are you going to do something about it? Can you change the deck building or something? Yeah. That's what I can advise like players for this format. If you're trying to play V, and I love V because I think that the decks are not really far away from each other in the tier.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
Like you can see the tier list, right? Like tier S, tier A, tier B, but you do feel nervous. Like, I don't know if you're playing against. There is a player here in Mexico who has always played Nova Grappler, and but it's a strong deck, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
the right deck with the right
you know,
pilot.
things are about to come down. Like, that thing is gonna attack me a bunch of times, and there's like little I can do about it. And any deck that you see like on the other side of the table, there's some knowledge. As for the other formats, I don't know. I feel like premium is so much right now, and I love it. The only thing that puts me off from premium, like, do something about the milling deck. I know it's not consistent. I know but like, I feel that I am not really lucky. So I think that, and I can see it. Like, if I sit across a person who has an unstable milling deck, he's gonna have everything. Like, and in my brain, I'm gonna be like, oh, come on, isn't it supposed to be unstable? And then I would just look at them as I draw my cards in my hand. Like, that's not healthy. I think that we got into the verge of having a very diverse and healthy premium format, and then this thing slipped under the radar just through. So I think that premium would be that way. Standard, just more defense. I know we're getting there, but I do agree. I think that it would be another open debate about how I would fix standard. I have like a lot of my points, but that's that. So just test your deck, practice.
Yeah, and it comes down to that too. And I like how you said, like, start with the worst case scenario and then go from there. When you said, like, be pessimistic at first, I was like, wait, what? But it makes sense when you're like, okay, so from this is how bad it can get. But after this, it gets better. And so I like that. And you're right. Like, it reminds me a lot of chess too. I actually played chess too in high school. So I can see the similarities as you're like mentioning it, and it forces you to think long term in a game, which I think is a really good way to like win games too, because you can kind of predict both your turns, which is impactful too. So thank you for sharing that. Did you want to give any last minute shout outs before we end today?
I think that's all right now. Just once again, shout out to all the Latin American community. I don't think that we get enough attention from the organizers, and I understand why. I can say why and everything, but there's a lot of people really eager to show their value and like to this competitive level. And even with events like BRO, I think that Latin America does not have enough events. Like, we don't have a circuit as long as some people have in the US or in other parts of the world. And once again, I understand why this happens.
Yeah.
But I wish there could be more spaces where people can show what they do. So only that.
Awesome. That's very humbling of you. And I appreciate that too as well. So thanks again for hopping on the channel and having the opportunity to interview you. So with that, amigos, on to the next one.
Thanks a lot.